The iron collar burned against my throat. I stood on the platform with 11 other Omegas, all of us stripped down to thin white shifts, all of us trembling. But when the auctioneer's voice boomed through the great hall, lot number 7, Sarah Ashwood, age 22, Shadowpaw slums, I knew my particular hell was about to begin. The crowd barely glanced my way. Why would they? I was nothing. A slum-born Omega whose own pack had sold her to settle gambling debts. The dress they'd given me hung on my too thin frame like a burial shroud, and my bare feet were already numb against the cold marble. Starting bid, 50 silver, the auctioneer announced, sounding bored. Silence. My cheeks burned. I wasn't even worth 50 pieces of silver to these people. I fixed my eyes on the floor, counting the veins in the marble, trying to disappear into myself the way I'd learned to do back in the slums when the pack elders got drunk and mean. Then I felt it. A prickling along my spine. A heat that had nothing to do with shame. Someone was watching me. I lifted my head before I could stop myself, and that's when I saw him. At the far end of the hall, elevated on a throne of black stone, sat Alpha King Caius Bloodmoon. Even from this distance, his presence hit me like a physical force. He was massive, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell past his collar and a face carved from granite and bad intentions. But it was his eyes that stopped my heart. Obsidian. Fixed on me with an intensity that made my knees buckle. 50 silver going once, the auctioneer droned. The Alpha King stood. The entire hall went silent. You could have heard a pin drop in that cavernous space, packed with hundreds of wolves from every territory in the realm. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Caius Bloodmoon descended from his throne with the fluid grace of a predator. Each step echoed through the hall as he moved toward the auction platform, his eyes never leaving mine. The crowd parted like water before him. My wolf, small and weak as she was, cowered inside me. Every instinct screamed to look away, to submit, to make myself smaller. But I couldn't break his gaze. I was pinned by it, caught like prey in a trap. He stopped at the edge of the platform. Up close, he was even more terrifying. Power radiated from him in waves, ancient and absolute. This was a wolf who'd ruled for 2 centuries, who'd crushed rebellions and conquered territories, whose very name made grown alphas nervous. She's mine, he said. 2 words. That's all it took to change everything. The auctioneer stumbled over his response. Your Majesty, the bidding hasn't. I wasn't bidding. Caius's voice was dark velvet wrapped around steel. I'm claiming. A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. Murmurs erupted, quickly stifled. A man in military dress stepped forward from the throne area, the king's beta, I realized. My lord, perhaps we should discuss this in private. She's from the slums. Unclaimed. Untrained. Surely there are more suitable. Are you questioning me, Marcus? Caius didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The beta went pale. No, Your Majesty. Of course not. Good. Caius's gaze slid back to me, and something in those dark eyes made my stomach flip. Because I'm invoking King's right. Gasps erupted throughout the hall. I didn't understand. I was just a slum Omega who could barely read. What was King's right? But the horror on the other Omega's faces told me everything I needed to know. One of them, a pretty girl with blonde curls who'd been sold by the Riverside Pack, actually whimpered. An older council member rushed forward, his expensive robes flapping. Sire, King's right hasn't been invoked in over a century. Are you certain? She belongs to me, Caius interrupted, his voice dropping to something that made my skin prickle. Body and soul. For one night, as the old laws decree. Does anyone challenge my claim? Silence. Heavy and absolute. Then we're done here. He turned to 2 guards flanking the platform. Take her to my chambers. Everything happened too fast after that. Rough hands grabbed my arms, hauling me off the platform. My legs barely worked. The crowd pressed in on all sides, a blur of faces, some pitying, some disgusted, some hungry. I was dragged through corridors of black stone and crimson tapestries, up a winding staircase that seemed to go on forever. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The Alpha King had claimed me. Me. Why? We passed a pair of guards stationed outside a heavy wooden door. One of them, young, with kind eyes, looked at me with something like sympathy. Shame, the other guard muttered as we passed. She's pretty enough. Wonder if she'll last longer than the last one. What happened to the last one? The young guard asked. Never seen again. King kept her for one night, and he made a slicing motion across his throat. My blood turned to ice. The guards holding me shoved open a door and thrust me inside. It slammed shut behind me with a finality that made my bones ache. I stumbled, catching myself on what appeared to be a bedpost. Looking around, I found myself in a chamber that was bigger than my entire pack house back in the slums. A massive four-poster bed dominated the space, draped in black silk. Candles flickered in wall sconces, casting dancing shadows. An enormous fireplace crackled with flames that did nothing to warm the chill spreading through my chest. This was it. This was where I would die. I heard a door open on the far side of the chamber. My head snapped toward the sound, and there he was. Caius Bloodmoon had changed from his formal attire into simple black pants and a loose white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Somehow, he looked even more dangerous this way. More real. He closed the door behind him with a soft click. We stared at each other across the vast chamber. I pressed my back against the bedpost, my fingers digging into the carved wood hard enough to hurt. You're afraid, he observed. Not a question. I couldn't have answered if I wanted to. My throat had closed up completely. He moved closer, not walking, prowling, and I watched him approach the way a rabbit watches a wolf. Because that's what he was. Not just an alpha, but an apex predator wrapped in human skin. Your scent, he murmured, still advancing. When you were on that platform, it reached me across the entire hall. Do you know what you smell like, little Omega? I shook my head mutely. Rain. The kind that falls in forests far from cities and politics and blood. And something else. Something. He paused, nostrils flaring. Untouched. Pure. He was circling me now, the way a predator circles prey before the kill. I turned with him, trying to keep him in sight, but he moved too fast. 1 second he was in front of me, the next he was behind, his breath hot against my ear. They think I'm going to hurt you, he said, his voice a dark promise that slid down my spine like ice water. The guards, the council, probably you too. They whisper stories about me. About what happens to Omegas in my chambers. Please, I managed to whisper. I didn't do anything. No, you didn't. His hand came up, and I flinched, but he merely traced a finger along my jaw, tilting my face toward his. Those obsidian eyes bored into mine. You just existed. You just smelled like everything I'd been missing for 200 years. And now you're mine. For one night. What are you going to do to me? The smile that curved his lips was wicked and wild and completely void of reassurance. He stepped back, gesturing toward the chamber's far door, the one that led deeper into his private quarters. That depends entirely on you, little Omega. His eyes gleamed in the candlelight. Run. It's more fun when you try to escape. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. I didn't run. Not because I was brave, God knows I wasn't, but because my legs had turned to water. I stood frozen against that bedpost while Caius Bloodmoon watched me with eyes that held centuries of hunger. No. He tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. Most Omegas bolt the second I give them the chance. They make it to the eastern corridor before I catch them. One particularly fast little thing made it all the way to the gardens. What happened to her? The words escaped before I could stop them. His smile was all teeth. She went mad before dawn. Started screaming that shadows were eating her alive. We had to sedate her, send her back to her pack. She never spoke again. My stomach lurched. And the others? Does it matter? He moved closer, and this time I couldn't stop myself from backing up. You'll find out soon enough. The night is young, little Omega, and my estate is vast. 37 rooms in this wing alone. Gardens that span 5 acres. Tunnels beneath the palace that date back 300 years. He paused. So many places to hide. So many shadows to lose yourself in. This is insane, I breathed. You're going to hunt me through your own palace? Not hunt. He caught my chin, forcing me to meet his gaze. Test. There's a difference. Test what? How long it takes before I go insane like the others. Something flickered across his face, too fast for me to read. Something like that. He released me abruptly and strode toward a cabinet along the wall. When he turned back, he held a length of black silk. You have until I count to 100. Use any door, any passage, anywhere in the eastern wing. But know this, his voice dropped to something dangerous. When I find you, and I will find you, you'll wish you'd run faster. My heart hammered against my ribs. And if I don't run? If I just stay here? His eyes flashed gold, wolf rising to the surface. Then this will be over very quickly, and you'll end up like the Omega 3 months ago. We buried what was left of her in the royal cemetery. Horror crawled up my throat. You killed her? No. For the first time, something almost human crossed his face. Pain, maybe. Or regret. I didn't have to. My wolf did it for me. Before I could process that, he lifted the silk and covered his eyes, tying it behind his head. 1. I ran. My bare feet slapped against cold marble as I burst through the door into a corridor lit by flickering torches. Left or right? I chose left, purely on instinct, and flew down the hallway like death itself was chasing me. Because it was. 10, his voice echoed from behind me, impossibly calm. I took a corner too fast, nearly crashing into a suit of armor. The eastern wing was a maze of corridors and chambers, each more opulent than the last. Paintings of former kings watched me with dead eyes as I passed. Sculptures cast twisted shadows on the walls. 25. His voice was closer now. How? He was supposed to be counting, blindfolded, in his chambers. I found a door and wrenched it open, a library. Shelves stretched to the ceiling, packed with ancient books. A massive fireplace dominated one wall. I ducked behind a reading chair, pressing my hand over my mouth to muffle my breathing. That's when the first cramp hit. Pain lanced through my abdomen, sharp and unmistakable. No. Not now. Not this. I was going into heat. But that was impossible. I'd been on suppressants since I was 16, crude, cheap pills the slum pack could afford. They shouldn't wear off for another month. Another cramp, stronger this time. My skin felt too hot, too tight. Slick began to gather between my thighs, and my scent, that rain and forest scent Caius had mentioned, intensified, filling the library with pheromones that would call to any alpha within range. 50. Oh God. He'd smell me now. He'd find me in seconds. I struggled to my feet, fighting through the haze of heat that was rapidly clouding my mind. Focus. I had to focus. There, another door at the back of the library. I stumbled toward it just as I heard footsteps in the corridor outside. The door opened to a narrow servant's passage, dark and close. I plunged into it, following the tunnel as it twisted deeper into the palace. The air grew colder, damper. I must be heading toward the underground passages he'd mentioned. Behind me, I heard a sound that stopped my heart. A howl. Low and resonant and filled with dark promise. He'd found my scent. The passage opened into a vast underground chamber, some kind of old wine cellar, maybe, or storage room. Barrels lined the walls, and the ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadows. A single oil lamp hung near the entrance, casting barely enough light to see by. I pressed myself into a corner behind a stack of crates, wrapping my arms around my knees. The heat was worse now, turning my thoughts syrupy and slow. My body screamed for an alpha's touch, for the kind of relief only a mate could provide. And somewhere in this palace, the most powerful alpha in the realm was hunting me. Footsteps echoed in the passage. Slow. Deliberate. I can smell you, little Omega. Caius's voice drifted through the darkness, and something about it had changed. Deeper now. More animal than man. Your heat. Your fear. Your arousal. It's intoxicating. I bit down on my fist to keep from whimpering. Do you know what I am? He appeared in the doorway, and my breath caught. The blindfold was gone. His eyes glowed pure gold in the lamplight, and when he smiled, his canines had elongated. I'm not just an alpha, Sarah. I'm cursed. He moved into the chamber, and I could see the change in him. He was bigger somehow, more wolf than human, caught in some terrible space between forms. 100 years ago, I had a fated mate. Ilara. Beautiful, cunning, perfect in every way. She was an Omega from a noble house, and when the bonds snapped into place, I thought the gods had finally blessed me. He circled the room, hunting me by scent even though he was pretending not to know where I hid. For 5 years, we were happy. Or so I thought. Then I discovered the truth. She'd been working with my enemies, using our bond to poison me slowly. The night I confronted her, she tried to complete the job, slipped wolfsbane into my wine and waited for me to die. I couldn't help it. I gasped. His head snapped toward my corner. There you are. But he didn't advance. Instead, he continued speaking, his voice raw with old pain. I survived, obviously. Killed her before the poison could finish the job. But something broke that night. My wolf, he couldn't handle the betrayal. We were already old, already powerful, already dangerous. The betrayal pushed us over the edge into something else. Something that consumes Omegas. Consumes? I whispered. My darkness eats them alive, he said flatly. Their light, their softness, their innocence, my wolf feeds on it until there's nothing left but madness. I don't want to hurt them. But I can't stop it. Every Omega I've touched in the last century has either died or gone insane. Another cramp tore through me, and I couldn't bite back the whimper this time. My heat was fully upon me now, making coherent thought nearly impossible. Caius was there in an instant, hauling me up from behind the crates. But instead of violence, his touch was almost gentle. He carried me to a clear space in the center of the room and set me down against a barrel. Your heat, he growled. Why now? I don't know, I gasped. The suppressants, they shouldn't. Suppressants don't just fail. His eyes raked over me, and I saw something there beyond hunger. Concern? Unless you're reacting to something. To someone. Our eyes locked, and understanding crashed through me. The bond, I breathed. We're. No. He jerked back like I'd burned him. That's not possible. Fated mates don't get second chances. The gods don't forgive. But even as he said it, I could feel it. A golden thread spinning between us, invisible but unmistakable. The bond was forming, and my body was responding to his proximity, to his power, to the recognition that he was mine and I was his. Another wave of heat crashed over me, and I curled in on myself, shaking. Please, I whimpered. It hurts. Caius made a sound low in his throat, half growl, half groan. I can't. If I touch you during your heat, my wolf will consume you. You'll be dead by morning. Then let me die, I said, and meant it. The pain was unbearable, a fire under my skin that only an alpha's touch could quench. It's better than this. You don't mean that. Don't I? I looked up at him through tears. I'm a slum omega sold to pay my pack's debts. I have no family, no prospects, no future. Maybe this is what I was meant for. Maybe the gods brought me here to end your suffering. His face contorted with something that looked like agony. You have no idea what you're saying. Then show me. I reached for him, my hand trembling. Show me this darkness. Let me see the monster. Sarah. I'm not afraid of you. The words came from somewhere deep inside, somewhere true. I've lived in darkness my whole life. The slums aren't kind to weak omegas. I've been beaten, starved, nearly sold to worse fates than this. Your darkness doesn't scare me, Caius. You know what scares me? The loneliness in your eyes. The way you isolate yourself in this palace, surrounded by people but utterly alone. Stop. His voice cracked. You're not a monster. You're broken. There's a difference. He moved so fast I didn't see it coming. 1 second I was against the barrel, the next I was pinned to the stone floor, his body covering mine, his face inches away. His eyes were pure wolf now, no humanity left in them. You think you can fix me? He snarled. You think some slum omega with pretty words and soft heart can heal centuries of darkness? You're just like her. Just like Alara. Manipulation wrapped in compassion. His words stung, but I didn't look away. I'm nothing like her. Prove it. Show me you're different. Show me. He stopped abruptly, his nostrils flaring. What is that? What? His hand wrapped around my throat, not squeezing, just holding. Your scent. It's changing. The heat is there, but underneath. His eyes widened. No. That's impossible. What's impossible? Void Omega. He breathed the words like a prayer. You're a Void Omega. I didn't understand. I don't know what that means. It means you're extinct. It means you shouldn't exist. He released my throat, sitting back on his heels, staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Void Omegas can absorb darkness. They're born to balance alphas like me, alphas who've crossed too far into shadow. They were hunted to extinction 200 years ago because they were too powerful, too dangerous. My mind raced. The dreams I'd had as a child, of swallowing shadows. The way other wolves had always been uncomfortable around me, even before I presented as Omega. The strange emptiness inside me that nothing had ever filled. I don't know how to do that, I admitted. Absorb darkness. I don't know how to be what you need. You already are. His voice had gone quiet. Just by existing. Just by not being afraid. He stood abruptly, turning away. But it doesn't matter. I won't use you like that. I won't consume another Omega, even one built to handle it. That's not your choice to make. I struggled to my feet, fighting through the haze of heat. I'm here. The bond is forming. And I'm telling you, I want this. I want to try. You don't know what you're asking. Then tell me. He spun back to face me, and the anguish in his face nearly broke my heart. I'm asking you to let me go, Sarah. To survive this night and leave this palace and never look back. Because if you stay, if you try to heal me, one of two things will happen. Either you'll succeed, and I'll bind you to me forever, trap you in a life you never chose. Or you'll fail, and I'll destroy you like all the others. What if I don't want to leave? I stepped closer. What if I choose this? Choose you? Why? The question exploded from him. Why would you choose a monster? I reached up, cupping his face in my hands. He flinched but didn't pull away. Because I see the man beneath the monster. The one who counts to 100 to give his prey a sporting chance. The one who shows concern when a random Omega's heat triggers unexpectedly. The one who's been alone for a century but keeps trying, keeps hoping, keeps searching for a way out of his curse. Sarah. And because, I continued, my voice dropping to a whisper, I'm not just some random Omega. I'm the one who carries darkness too. I've felt it inside me my whole life, this void, this emptiness, this hunger for something I couldn't name. Maybe I was made for this. Made for you. For a long moment, we stood there, his face in my hands, his eyes searching mine. Then he whispered, if I hurt you. You won't. I will. It's what I do. Then hurt me. I leaned closer, until my lips almost brushed his. Show me your worst. Give me your darkness. Let me prove I can handle it. His control snapped. He kissed me like a drowning man kisses air, desperate, consuming, almost violent. His hands tangled in my hair, tilting my head back as he plundered my mouth. I tasted hunger and loneliness and a century of denial. And underneath it all, I tasted the darkness. It rolled off him in waves, seeking to consume me, to devour my light and leave nothing but shadow. But instead of drowning in it, I felt something inside me open. That void I'd carried my whole life suddenly had purpose. The darkness flowed into me, and I swallowed it down, my body instinctively knowing what to do. Caius jerked back, eyes wide with shock. What are you doing? What I was born to do, I said, and pulled him back to me. This time when we kissed, something shifted. The predator and prey dynamic dissolved, replaced by something rawer. Equal. Two broken souls finding each other in the dark. He lifted me, and I wrapped my legs around his waist, my heat making me bold. But before things could go further, he pulled back again, breathing hard. I need to know, he said roughly. Before this goes any further. Tell me true, Sarah. Do you want this? Not because of the heat, not because of the bond, not because you're trying to save me. Do you want me? I looked into those ancient eyes and told him the terrifying truth. I do. God help me, I do. Something in his face cracked open, and for the first time since I'd met him, Caius Blood Moon smiled, really smiled, and it was beautiful. Then let me tell you a secret, little Omega, he murmured against my lips. I've been waiting 200 years for you. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. The underground chamber had become our sanctuary. As hours passed and dawn crept closer, Caius and I remained tangled together on a makeshift bed of his discarded jacket and my thin shift, learning each other in the flickering lamplight. My heat had subsided to a manageable simmer, not gone, but controlled. And the darkness that had been consuming him for a century? I could feel it inside me now, a cold weight in my chest that should have terrified me but instead felt strangely right. Like coming home to a place I'd never been. Tell me how it feels, Caius murmured against my hair. We were pressed together, his back against a barrel, me nestled between his legs. His arms wrapped around me, holding me like I might disappear. When you absorb it? I considered the question. Like swallowing starlight in reverse. Instead of warmth and brightness, it's cool and shadowed. But it doesn't hurt. It fills that empty space inside me, the one I've had my whole life. His chest rumbled with a sound that was almost a purr. And I feel lighter. For the first time in decades, my wolf is quiet. Content. How much time do we have left? I already knew the answer but needed to hear it anyway. 2 hours until dawn. Then King's right expires, and you're free to go. What if I don't want to be free? His arms tightened fractionally. Sarah. I mean it. What happens if I stay? You can't. His voice roughened. You don't understand the politics of this place. The moment the sun rises, you'll be under the scrutiny of the entire court. They'll tear you apart. A slum Omega with no pack, no family, no status. They'll eat you alive. Then give me status. I twisted in his arms to face him. You're the Alpha King. You could. Could what? Claim you as my mistress? Make you a target for every ambitious wolf in the palace? You saw how my council reacted when I invoked King's right. Imagine their response if I tried to keep you permanently. Before I could argue, a sound echoed through the tunnels. Footsteps. Multiple sets, moving fast. Caius was on his feet in an instant, pulling me up and positioning himself between me and the passage entrance. His eyes flashed gold. Stay behind me. A woman emerged from the shadows, and my breath caught. She was stunning in a way that made my chest tight with inadequacy. Tall and willowy, with midnight hair that cascaded past her waist and violet eyes that glowed with power. She wore robes of deep purple, embroidered with silver moons and stars. Caius, darling. Her voice was honey and poison mixed. When I heard you'd invoked King's right, I simply had to see for myself. It's been so long since you've played with your food. Morgana. Caius's tone could have frozen fire. You're not welcome here. Oh, but I'm the High Priestess. I'm welcome everywhere. Those violet eyes slid to me, and something dark flickered in their depths. Especially when there's such an interesting little Omega to meet. What's your name, dear? Sarah, I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. Sarah. She rolled the name around like she was tasting wine. And how are you feeling? Not mad yet? No screaming fits? No clawing at the walls? Caius growled. Get out. Not until I understand what makes this one different. Morgana circled us, her robes whispering against stone. All the others broke within hours. But you're still standing. Still sane. Still. She stopped abruptly, nostrils flaring. No. That's impossible. What? I asked, though part of me already knew. You're a void Omega. Morgana's beautiful face twisted with something ugly. I thought we eradicated your kind 2 centuries ago. The pieces clicked together in my head. You're the one who cursed him. Silence fell like a blade. Caius went very still. What did you say? She cursed you. I stared at Morgana, and suddenly so much made sense. You wanted him, and when he rejected you, you made sure no one else could have him either. You turned his wolf into something that consumes Omegas. Morgana's smile was razor sharp. Clever girl. Yes, I cursed him. Caius was supposed to choose me. I'm the High Priestess, descended from the moon goddess herself. But he looked at me and saw nothing. No spark. No bond. So I made certain he'd never find happiness with anyone else. You destroyed innocent lives. Fury burned through me, hot and bright. All those Omegas who went mad or died, that's on you. Collateral damage. She waved a dismissive hand. Though I admit, I'm impressed you've survived this long. Void Omegas are rare, built to balance the darkness in powerful alphas. You might actually break my curse. Good, Caius snarled. Then get out of my way and let her do it. Oh, I don't think so. Morgana's eyes glittered with malice. You see, I've spent a century watching you suffer. Watching you isolate yourself, deny yourself any pleasure, turn yourself into the monster I always knew you were. I'm not about to let some slum Omega ruin my masterpiece. Power rolled off her in waves, ancient magic that made my skin prickle. Caius shoved me behind him as Morgana raised her hand, violet energy crackling around her fingers. I could kill her right now, Morgana said conversationally. One blast of magic, and your little hope dies with her. But where's the fun in that? No, I think I'll let the court destroy her. They're very good at that. She vanished in a swirl of purple smoke, her laughter echoing through the tunnels. I sagged against Caius, my heart hammering. She's going to tell them. About what I am. About the curse breaking. Yes. His jaw was granite. And by noon, every wolf in the palace will know. The council will demand your execution. Why would they want me dead if I can break your curse? Because a broken curse means a stronger king. And a stronger king means less power for them. He pulled me close, pressing his forehead to mine. Sarah, you need to run. Now. While there's still time. Leave the palace, leave the territory. No. I gripped his shirt, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a crumbling world. I'm not leaving you. You have to. If you stay. If I stay, we face this together. I pulled back to look him in the eye. You said I might be your fated mate. If that's true, then running won't save me. The bond will pull me back to you no matter how far I go. Pain and hope warred in his expression. You don't know what you're asking. Then tell me. All of it. No more secrets. He was quiet for a long moment, then sighed. Let's go somewhere more comfortable. If we're spending your last free hours together, I'd rather not do it in a wine cellar. He led me through the tunnels back to his chambers. The palace was stirring now. I could hear servants moving through distant corridors, preparing for the day. But we encountered no one. Caius knew all the hidden passages, all the secret routes. In his chambers, he poured us both wine and gestured me toward the massive bed. I settled against the pillows, and he sat beside me, close but not touching. What do you want to know? He asked quietly. Everything. Start with Alara. So he told me. About the fated mate bond that had felt like destiny. About 5 years of happiness that turned out to be an elaborate lie. About the assassination attempt and the heartbreak that followed. I killed her, he said flatly. With my bare hands. And the moment she died, something inside me died too. My wolf couldn't handle it, couldn't reconcile that our fated mate, the one the gods supposedly chose for us, would betray us so completely. He turned inward, became something twisted and dark. And Morgana? Came to me a month later, offering comfort. I rejected her, gently, I thought. I wasn't ready, wasn't interested. A week later, the curse manifested. The first Omega I touched went mad within hours. He stared at his hands. I didn't understand what was happening at first. Thought it was coincidence. But after the third Omega died, I realized. My wolf had become poison to the very beings who should be our balance. So you stopped touching them. For decades, yes. But the curse evolved. My wolf grew darker, hungrier. Eventually, isolation wasn't enough. I needed to test myself, to see if maybe, just maybe, I'd found some measure of control. So I started the King's Right nights. One Omega, one night, one chance to prove I wasn't the monster Morgana made me. But they all failed. Until you. He finally looked at me, and the raw emotion in his eyes stole my breath. You didn't just survive, Sarah. You thrived. You took my darkness and made it yours, and my wolf recognized you. Not as prey. As mate. Before I could respond, he continued, but there's something else you need to know. Something I discovered while you slept earlier. What? He pulled a folded paper from his pocket, old, yellowed with age. I had my beta do some research on void omegas while I was supposed to be hunting you. There's only been one bloodline that consistently produced void abilities. My heart started to pound. Which bloodline? The Ashwood line. The royal family that ruled before my family took the throne 300 years ago. He handed me the paper. Sarah Ashwood. That's your full name, isn't it? I stared at the genealogy chart, at the names and dates and bloodlines that spiraled across the page. And there, at the bottom, circled in fresh ink, Sarah Ashwood, born 22 years ago to Alpha King Garrett Ashwood and his Omega mate, Lydia. presumed dead in the coup that ended the Ashwood reign. I'm not dead, I whispered. No. You're very much alive. Which means you're not some slum Omega sold to pay debts. His voice was gentle. You're the lost princess of the Ashwood line. The rightful heir to a throne that was stolen. The room spun. I gripped the paper like it could anchor me to reality. That's impossible. I grew up in the slums. I was raised by... By who, Sarah? Who told you that you were theirs? I opened my mouth and realized I didn't have an answer. The pack elders had always been vague about my origins. Said my parents died when I was a baby. That they'd taken me in out of charity. But I'd never questioned it, never thought to ask for proof. The coup happened 22 years ago, Caius said quietly. Your parents were killed, along with most of the royal family. But some believe the infant princess survived. That loyal Ashwood supporters smuggled her out and hid her somewhere safe. The slums, I breathed. They hid me in the last place anyone would look. Until circumstances forced them to sell you. His face darkened. Or maybe it wasn't circumstance. Maybe someone recognized you, figured out who you were, and arranged for you to end up here. At this auction. Where I would see you. Claim you. Morgana? Possibly. She loves her games. He took my hand. Sarah, this changes everything. You're not just my potential mate. You're a political threat. The council has been trying to undermine my rule for years, and the Ashwood loyalists have been waiting for a chance to reclaim their throne. If they learn you exist. A knock at the door cut him off. Caius tensed. What? His beta's voice came through, tight with urgency. Sire, the council demands an immediate audience. They know about the Void Omega. They know about everything. Damn Morgana, Caius muttered. He looked at me, conflict written across his face. Stay here. I'll handle them. No. I stood, squaring my shoulders. I'm done hiding. If I'm really a lost princess, if I'm really your mate, then I face this with you. Sarah. Together, I said firmly. Or not at all. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Together. But stay close, and let me do the talking. The council chamber was a vast room dominated by a circular table. 12 wolves sat around it, 6 alphas, 4 betas, and 2 omegas, all members of the highest noble houses. They looked at me with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt as Caius and I entered. Your Majesty. The speaker was an older alpha with silver hair and cold eyes. We've heard disturbing reports. Have you? Caius's voice was ice. From the High Priestess, I presume? The source doesn't matter. What matters is the claim that you found a Void Omega, and that she might be of Ashwood blood. The Alpha's gaze slid to me. If true, this girl represents a significant threat to the stability of the realm. How so? Caius asked mildly. She's one Omega. One Omega with a claim to the throne that predates your family's rule. Another council member leaned forward. One Omega who could rally Ashwood loyalists and start a civil war. One Omega who, if she's truly your fated mate, would become queen and shift the entire balance of power. So execute her. This came from one of the Omega council members, a beautiful woman with amber eyes. It's the only logical solution. Kill her quietly, dispose of the body, and we can all move forward. Rage exploded through me, but Caius's hand on my arm kept me silent. You want me, he said softly, to execute my fated mate. The one being who can break my curse. The one who might save me from the darkness that's consumed me for a century. For the good of the realm, yes. And if I refuse? The council members exchanged glances. Finally, the silver-haired alpha spoke. Then we will have no choice but to declare you unfit to rule. Your judgment is compromised by the mate bond. You're a danger to yourself and others. We'll call for a vote of no confidence, and if it passes. He shrugged. Civil war becomes inevitable anyway. The ultimatum hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. Caius's hand tightened on my arm. I could feel the tension radiating from him, the wolf barely leashed beneath his skin. They were backing him into a corner, forcing him to choose between me and his throne. I couldn't let him make that choice. I'll leave, I said quietly. Voluntarily. I'll renounce any claim to the Ashwood name, leave the territory, and never return. No execution necessary. Sarah, no. It's the only way. I looked at him, trying to memorize every detail of his face. You're a good king, Caius. Your people need you. I won't be the reason the realm falls into war. Such a noble sacrifice, the amber-eyed Omega purred. But I'm afraid it's not that simple. Alive, you're always a threat. Dead. She smiled. Well, the dead make poor rallying points for rebellions. Caius moved between us, his body a shield. If you want her, you go through me. Caius, I started. No. He looked back at the council, and the Alpha King was fully present now, all power and command. I reject your ultimatum. I'm invoking Crown Law, Article 7, the king's right to choose his queen without council interference. As of this moment, I'm claiming Sarah Ashwood as my maiden queen. Gasps erupted around the table. Furthermore, Caius continued, his voice cutting through the chaos, any attempt to harm her will be considered an act of treason and punished accordingly. The claiming ceremony will be held tonight in the Grand Hall. All are invited to witness. The silver-haired Alpha stood, his face purple with rage. You're making a grave mistake, Your Majesty. Perhaps. But she's mine to make it with. He turned, pulling me toward the door. This meeting is over. We made it 3 steps into the corridor before I heard the whistle of a blade cutting air. Caius shoved me aside and spun, but he wasn't fast enough. The dagger caught him in the shoulder, exactly where my heart would have been if he hadn't moved me. He hit the ground, and I saw it immediately. The green tinge to his blood, the way his lips were already turning blue. Poison. Guards. I screamed, dropping to my knees beside him. Help. His eyes found mine, already glazing with pain. Sarah, run. I'm not leaving you. Tears streamed down my face. Don't you dare die on me, Caius Blood Moon. We just found each other. His hand found mine, squeezing weakly. Love you, he breathed. Didn't get to say. Then his eyes rolled back, and his hand went limp in mine. Around us, the palace erupted into chaos. But all I could see was the Alpha King dying in my arms, the claiming ceremony that would never happen, and the future we'd almost had slipping away with every labored beat of his failing heart. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The healers worked over Caius's body with desperate efficiency, but I could see the truth in their faces. The poison was winning. Your Majesty. Marcus, the beta, touched my shoulder carefully. We need to move him to the royal healing chambers. And you need to address the court. The assassination attempt has thrown the palace into chaos. I'm not leaving him. Sarah. His voice gentled. He would want you to lead. The kingdom needs stability right now, and you're the only one who can provide it. I looked down at Caius's pale face, at the green-tinged veins spreading from the wound like poisoned roots. Through the forming bond, I could feel him, distant and fading, but still fighting. Still holding on. For me. I stood, wiping the tears from my face. When I spoke, my voice was steady. Get him to the healers. Use every resource we have. I don't care if you have to summon healers from every territory, save him. Yes, Your Majesty. The title should have felt strange. Instead, it settled over me like armor. I turned to face the corridor where nobles and guards had gathered, drawn by the commotion. They stared at me, some with shock, some with contempt, some with calculation. I was still wearing the thin shift from the auction, still barefoot, still marked by Caius's scent and touch. I looked like exactly what I was, a slum Omega who'd spent the night in the Alpha King's bed. But I was also the lost Ashwood princess. And right now, with Caius fighting for his life, I was all they had. Listen well, I said, and power, my power, awakening after a lifetime of dormancy, rolled through my voice. Even the Alpha straightened at the command in it. There has been an attempt on the king's life. Until he recovers, I will rule in his stead as his claimed queen and mate. You have no authority, someone started to protest. I have every authority. I cut them off with a look that would have made my ancestors proud. Crown Law, Article 12. In the event of the king's incapacitation, his mate assumes temporary rule. Any who challenge this will be considered traitors and dealt with accordingly. I let my gaze sweep the crowd, daring anyone to argue. No one did. Marcus, with me. Everyone else, return to your duties. I want the palace locked down, no one enters or leaves without my explicit permission. And find that assassin. Now. I swept past them, Marcus falling into step beside me. Where are we going, Your Majesty? To the throne room. It's time the court understood exactly who they're dealing with. The throne room was already packed when I arrived. Word had spread fast. I walked down the center aisle in my bare feet and borrowed shift, head high, refusing to show any weakness. The obsidian throne loomed before me, Caius's seat, the symbol of his power. I climbed the dais and turned to face the assembled court. For a long moment, I simply stood there, letting them look. Letting them see the Omega who'd survived the Alpha King's darkness. The lost princess who'd emerged from the slums. The queen who would not be intimidated. Some of you, I began, my voice carrying through the vast space, are wondering if I have the strength to rule. If a slum-born Omega has any business sitting in the shadow of this throne. Let me answer those questions now. I let my power unfurl, not the manufactured dominance some Omegas forced, but the real thing. The ancient Ashwood authority that flowed through my bloodline, combined with the void abilities that made me unique. The air in the throne room thickened with it. Several wolves dropped to their knees involuntarily. I am Sarah Ashwood, daughter of Alpha King Garrett and Queen Lydia, heir to the Ashwood throne by blood and right. I am also a Void Omega, the first of my kind in 200 years, chosen by fate itself to balance the most powerful Alpha in the realm. And I am Caius Bloodman's fated mate, his claimed queen, and until he wakes, your ruler. I paused, letting that sink in. Now. Someone in this court tried to kill your king. Someone poisoned a blade meant for me and struck him instead. And I'm going to find out who. The silver-haired council member from earlier stepped forward. Your Maj, that is, Lady Ashwood, perhaps we should discuss this matter privately. An investigation requires delicacy. What it requires, I interrupted, is truth. Something this court seems to have forgotten. I descended from the dais, moving through the crowd. The High Priestess Morgana visited me and King Caius in the early hours of this morning. She revealed herself as the one who cursed him. Tell me, Counselor Thorn, did you know about this? Thorn's face went carefully blank. The High Priestess's actions are her own. Are they? Because I find it interesting that you called for my execution less than an hour before someone attempted it. Almost as if it had been planned. I circled him slowly. And the poison used, nightshade mixed with wolfsbane and something else, something that requires extensive magical knowledge to create. The kind of knowledge a high priestess might possess. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This is preposterous, Thorn blustered. You're accusing the high priestess of treason based on speculation. I'm accusing her based on her own confession. I stopped in front of him. She told me herself that she cursed Caius. That she's been orchestrating his suffering for a century. And now I think she's been working with members of this court to finish what she started. Lies. The amber-eyed Omega from the council pushed forward. She's trying to distract from her own crimes. She's an Ashwood. Of course she wants to destabilize the Blood Moon reign. Do I? I met her eyes calmly. Because I could have let Caius die. Could have let the poison do its work and claimed the throne for myself. The Ashwood loyalists would have rallied to me. Instead, I'm here, fighting to save him. Why would I do that if I wanted power? No answer. Unless, I continued softly, I actually love him. Unless the mate bond is real, and I'd rather die than see him harmed. Through our forming bond, I felt a flicker of response. Caius, somewhere in the depths of his poisoned delirium, had heard me. Love you too, his thoughts whispered across the connection. Smell like home. Like rain in forests. Like everything I'd been searching for. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them back. Guards, arrest Counselor Thorne and Lady Senna. Hold them until we can verify their involvement. You have no proof. Senna shrieked as guards moved toward her. Then you have nothing to fear from an investigation. I turned to address the full court. Anyone else involved in this conspiracy would be wise to confess now. My mercy is limited, and my patience is gone. The throne room erupted into chaos, some supporting me, others calling for my removal. But I stood firm in the center of it all, anchored by the bond that connected me to Caius and the power thrumming through my veins. Marcus appeared at my elbow. Your Majesty, the healers need to see you. It's urgent. My heart stopped. Is he? Not yet. But soon, if we can't find an antidote. They think you might be able to help. I followed him at a run through the palace corridors to the royal healing chambers. Caius lay on a massive bed, surrounded by healers who worked frantically over his failing body. The green veins had spread further, and his breathing was labored. What can I do? I demanded. The head healer, an ancient beta woman with knowing eyes, beckoned me closer. You're a void Omega. You can absorb darkness, yes? Yes. Poison is a form of darkness. Death magic woven into physical form. She took my hand and placed it over Caius's heart. If you can absorb it, pull it out of him, you might save his life. Then let's do it. Wait. Her grip tightened on my wrist. You don't understand. This isn't just poison. It's a curse, Morgana's curse, refined and concentrated. If you absorb it, you'll be taking that darkness into yourself. And void Omegas, powerful as they are, have limits. This much concentrated evil could kill you. Or worse, it could drive you mad, transform you into something neither Omega nor sane. I looked down at Caius's pale face. I don't care. Child. He took a blade meant for me. He's dying because he protected me. I met her eyes. I won't let him go without a fight. The healer studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Then we begin. But once you start, you cannot stop. Either you absorb all of it, or it will kill you both. I stripped off the outer robe someone had draped over my shift and climbed onto the bed, straddling Caius's hips. Placing both hands over his heart, I closed my eyes and reached for that void inside me, the emptiness that had defined my existence until I'd met him. Come to me, I called to the poison. Come home. At first, nothing happened. Then I felt it, a trickle of green darkness flowing from Caius's body into mine. It burned like acid, like ice, like 1,000 tiny blades cutting from the inside. I gritted my teeth and pulled harder. The trickle became a stream, then a river, then a flood. Darkness poured into me, and I swallowed it down, funneling it into the void. But the healer had been right, there was so much of it. Too much. My body began to convulse. I heard someone screaming and realized it was me. The darkness wasn't just poison anymore, it was showing me visions. Morgana's memories, twisted and hateful. Her jealousy of Caius's power. Her rage when he rejected her. The centuries she'd spent crafting this perfect revenge. And woven through it all, the curse itself. A spell designed with one purpose: if Caius ever truly loved again, the love itself would become poison. The deeper the bond, the stronger the curse. Completing the mate bond wouldn't save him. It would kill him. No, I gasped, the revelation hitting me like a physical blow. No, no, no. Sarah. Marcus's voice cut through my agony. You have to stop. You're dying. Can't stop, the words tore from my throat. Have to finish. But even as I absorbed the last of the poison, I could feel the curse settling into my bones. Morgana had planned this perfectly. Save Caius from the poison, only to realize that truly bonding with him would trigger the final phase of the curse. I had to choose: let him live unmated and in agony forever, our bond incomplete and tormenting. Or complete the bond and watch the curse destroy him anyway. It was a choice designed to break me. The darkness inside me laughed with Morgana's voice. Did you really think you could win, little Omega? Did you think love was enough? I've spent a century perfecting this curse. There is no escape. No loophole. No happy ending for you and your precious king. Fury ignited in my chest, hot and pure and absolutely done with being manipulated. You want darkness? I snarled into the void. Let me show you real darkness. I reached deep, deeper than I'd ever gone before, into the very core of what made me avoid Omega. And I found it, the black hole at the center of my being, the singularity that could swallow anything, even curses woven by high priestesses who thought themselves gods. I opened it fully. Every shadow in the room rushed toward me. Every candle extinguished. Even the light from the windows seemed to dim as I became a vortex of pure absence, pulling in not just Morgana's curse but the very concept of curses. The magical framework she'd built. The hatred that fueled it. The cruel satisfaction she'd taken in a century of suffering. All of it. Into the void. My body couldn't handle it. I felt myself coming apart at the seams, reality fragmenting around me. I was going to die. But if I could just hold on long enough, if I could just absorb all of it. Warm hands covered mine. Caius's eyes were open. Still clouded with pain but aware. Alive. Through our bond, I felt his life force pour into me, anchoring me to reality even as I threatened to dissolve into pure void. Together, his thoughts whispered. We do this together. His power met mine, light meeting dark, alpha meeting omega, and suddenly the curse had nowhere to go. Caught between the void that would swallow it and the light that would burn it away, Morgana's perfect spell shattered like glass. The explosion of released magic threw everyone in the room backward. When my vision cleared, I found myself collapsed on top of Caius, both of us panting, both of us alive. Did we? I started. It's gone. His voice was rough but clear. I can feel it. The curse is broken. I burst into tears. He pulled me down, crushing me against his chest, and we just held each other for a long moment. Around us, the healers were checking us both frantically, exclaiming over the green veins that had vanished from Caius's skin and the way my eyes had returned to their normal color. Apparently they'd been pure black during the absorption. Your Majesty. Marcus appeared in the doorway, his face grim. We found the assassin. He's confessed to working for Morgana and 3 council members, including Thorn and Senna. They plan to kill you both and install Thorn's nephew on the throne. Caius sat up carefully, keeping me in his lap. Bring them to the throne room. All of them. Including Morgana. She's resisting, sire. Her magic won't work on me anymore. I slid off the bed, surprised to find my legs steady. I absorbed her curse. That means I absorbed part of her power too. I'll get her. 10 minutes later, dressed in borrowed clothes and flanked by guards, I stood outside the temple where Morgana had barricaded herself. I could feel her magic crackling inside, violent and desperate. High Priestess, I called. Come out. Face justice for your crimes. Never. Her voice echoed from within. I am chosen by the moon goddess herself. You're nothing but a slum Omega who got lucky. I'm the Omega who broke your curse. The one you said couldn't exist. The one you spent 2 centuries trying to eradicate. I placed my hand on the temple door, feeling her wards resist. You should have killed me when you had the chance. I pulled. Not with physical strength but with the void, with the same power that had swallowed her curse. Her wards unraveled like cheap thread. The door exploded inward. Morgana stood in the center of the temple, violet eyes blazing, magic swirling around her in a tempest of power. She looked like a goddess of destruction, beautiful and terrifying. You want to challenge me? She hissed. I'm 2,000 years old. I've forgotten more magic than you'll ever learn. You're nothing. Nothing. She threw everything she had at me, lightning and fire and shadows that screamed. The guards dived for cover. The temple walls cracked under the onslaught. I stood in the center of the storm and felt nothing. Because I was nothing. I was void. I was the absence where her power went to die. When the smoke cleared, Morgana stared at me in horror. Impossible. You made me this, I said quietly. Your curse, your darkness, your century of cruelty, I absorbed all of it. You wanted to create a monster who would destroy the Alpha King? Congratulations. You created a queen who can destroy you. I didn't give her another chance to attack. With a thought, I pulled her magic into the void, stripping away the power she'd hoarded for millennia. She collapsed, suddenly looking every one of her 2,000 years. No, she whimpered. Please. I'm nothing without my power. I'm nothing. Yes, I agreed. You are. The execution of the traitors was held at sunset. The entire court assembled in the great square to witness as Morgana, Thorn, Senna, and 4 others who'd been part of the conspiracy were led to the platform. Caius stood on the dais, fully healed, every inch the Alpha King. I stood beside him, wearing a gown of deep purple, ashwood colors, with the temporary crown of the Queen Regent on my head. These wolves, Caius announced, his voice carrying across the silent crowd, conspired to murder their king and queen. They poisoned the realm with their treachery, endangered innocent lives, and violated the sacred trust between ruler and ruled. The sentence is death. No one protested. Even the traitors' families stayed silent. But before the executions could proceed, I stepped forward. Wait. Caius looked at me, one eyebrow raised. I addressed Morgana directly. You said completing the mate bond would kill Caius. Was that true? She smiled, bitter and broken. No. That was a lie. A final cruelty. The curse was already broken when you absorbed it. I just wanted you to suffer the way I've suffered. To feel that impossible choice. Relief and rage warred in my chest. You're a monster. So are you now, she whispered. You absorbed my darkness, little queen. You carry it inside you. How long before it corrupts you the way it corrupted Caius? How long before you become the very thing you fought against? I leaned close. The difference between you and me? I have someone who will pull me back from the darkness. Someone who will love me even when I'm lost. You had a century to find that, and you chose revenge instead. I straightened and nodded to the executioner. When it was done, Caius took my hand. Come. We have a ceremony to complete. The coronation was held that night in the Grand Hall, packed with witnesses from every territory. I knelt before Caius in a gown of silver and black, blood moon colors now, as he placed the true queen's crown on my head. Sarah Ashwood Blood Moon, he said, his voice ringing through the hall, I claim you as my mate, my queen, and my equal. Before these witnesses, I bind myself to you, body, soul, and crown. Will you have me? I looked up at him, at the male who'd gone from monster to mate, who'd shown me that darkness and light could coexist, that broken things could be made beautiful again. I will. The bond snapped into place fully, and it was like nothing I'd ever experienced. Not just connection but fusion, our souls intertwining, our powers balancing, our futures merging into one. I gasped at the intensity of it, and he pulled me to my feet, crushing me against him as the hall erupted in cheers. "I love you," he murmured against my lips. "My queen. My salvation. My home. I love you too. My king. My mate. My future." 3 months later, I stood in our private chambers, staring at the healer with incomprehension. "Say that again." The old beta woman smiled. "You're pregnant, Your Majesty. With twins. That's impossible. Omegas don't carry multiples. Our bodies can't. Typically, no. But you're not a typical Omega." She placed my hand on my still flat stomach. "You're a void Omega bonded to one of the most powerful alphas in history. Your children are unprecedented, a perfect balance of dark and light, void and creation. I believe one is an alpha, the other an Omega. Twin souls born of a bond that broke a curse and reshaped magic itself." I sat down hard, overwhelmed. "Caius," I breathed. As if summoned, the door opened and he strode in, his expression concerned. "The healer said you needed me, Sarah? What's wrong?" I looked at him and felt tears spill down my cheeks. "We're having twins. An alpha and an omega. Together." His face went through a dozen emotions in 3 seconds, landing on pure joy. He dropped to his knees before me, pressing his forehead to my stomach. "Twins," he whispered. "Of course. Because nothing about us has been normal from the beginning. Are you happy?" He looked up at me, and the love in his eyes stole my breath. I didn't think I could be this happy. For 2 centuries, I was alone in the dark. And then you came. Smelling like rain and looking at me like I wasn't a monster. You broke my curse, saved my life, became my queen. And now you're giving me children. How could I be anything but happy? Good. I tangled my fingers in his hair. Because you're about to be very busy. Twins mean twice the diapers. He laughed, that real laugh I'd worked so hard to earn, and pulled me down for a kiss. When we finally broke apart, I traced his jaw with one finger. "Do you remember that first night? When you told me to run?" "I remember." His eyes darkened. "I remember every moment. The way you looked on that auction platform. The way you smelled. The way you refused to be afraid of me even when you should have been. You said something at the end. Before you sent me to absorb your darkness." I leaned close, lips brushing his ear. "You said, 'Now, little Omega, it's your turn to give me your all.'" Did I? His hand spanned my waist. I was rather out of my mind at the time. You were. But now it's my turn to say it. I pulled back to meet his eyes, feeling the bond pulse between us, feeling the future unfurling before us like a gift. "Now, Alpha King, it's your turn to give me your all. Every dark corner. Every scarred piece. Every moment of happiness we've earned. Give it all to me, Caius Blood Moon. Because I'm not just your queen. I'm your everything." "As you command," he murmured, and pulled me down into the darkness we'd made beautiful together. Epilogue. 5 years later, I stood on the balcony overlooking the capital city, watching the sun set in brilliant shades of gold and crimson. Behind me, in our private rooms, I could hear Caius playing with our children, Lyric, our fierce alpha daughter, and Kieran, our gentle Omega son. Their laughter echoed through the chambers, bright and pure. A perfect balance. Just like their parents. The kingdom had flourished under our joint rule. The curse that had plagued the realm for a century was gone, taking with it the fear and suspicion that had divided wolf from wolf. We'd rebuilt alliances, established new laws protecting Omegas, and created a court where strength was measured not by dominance but by character. And every night, I fell asleep in the arms of a king who'd once been a monster but became the greatest love of my life. Your Majesty. Marcus appeared in the doorway. The ambassadors from the Northern Territories have arrived for the summit. Tell them I'll be there shortly. I turned from the sunset, moving back into the warmth of our chambers where Caius had both children on his lap, reading them a story about a brave Omega and a cursed king. Our eyes met across the room, and the bond hummed between us, still as intense as that first night, but tempered now with time and trust and the kind of love that survives curses and conspiracies and changes the world. Your turn to put them to bed, I said. I have a kingdom to run. He grinned, that wicked grin that still made my heart race. As you command, my queen. And as I left to meet with ambassadors and shape the future of our realm, I sent one thought across the bond: I love you. Always. His response came instantly: and I love you. Until the darkness itself forgets our names. Which, knowing us, would be never. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.